Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden, Will Southard, and Tommy Yu.
Welcome everybody to the PPP presented by Legit Football. My name is Brian. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening or watching, and tell those friends so we can grow this Pigskin Party. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Mr. Will Southard and Tommy Yu. Guys, we are just that much closer to the regular season. Are you starting to get hyped yet? Are you starting to feel it?
Brian, how long have you hosted a podcast? It's been a while, right? It's like 6 months.
Longer than that.
You can't just throw it out to the generic everybody. You got to target. Let's go with Tommy first. Let's see how Tommy's feeling first.
Are you guys not seasoned enough at this point to just be able to realize when it's your turn to speak?
No, we are unpaid help, Brian. This is an amateur herding of cats that you're doing right here. Let's just
fair enough.
I'll do it for you. Tommy, how's it going, man? How was your week? How you doing, buddy? How you feeling?
Whoa, the production value of this podcast just went through the roof. Look at this. Well, because this question was directed at me, I'm doing great. We finally got some football back. I know people probably didn't really watch the Hall of Fame game or the Hall of Fame speeches as I was kind of trying to talk in the beginning, but yo, that catch by Chase Claypool, though, I mean, come on. Football's back! That's all I got to say for the matter.
What inning was that in? Because that game was a legit snooze.
Yeah, when the highlight of the game is when the punter nails the punt at the 1 yard line, and I'm like, yep, that's the play of the game.
Bill Belichick probably busted his load. It was amazing.
But on the note of speaking turns and all that, you know, my instinct was not to treat you both as second graders and call on you for your appropriate times to speak, but Will, apparently, I should have known better. He knows better. Tommy's a pro. He would have handled it fine. Will needs to be called upon. So, Will, how are you doing today?
Man, that's great. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I mean, we're close, right? We're so close, we can smell it. And we got Hall of Fame games going on. We got big busts of Peyton Manning being unveiled. We got Tom Brady getting ready to don yet another ring this season, much to the sadness of Patrick Mahomes fans everywhere. Sorry, Jeff.
We're going to get into that. So before we bring in our guest, I want to hear from Tommy and Will. How much of any did you watch the Hall of Fame game between the Cowboys and the Steelers? At what point did you cut it off?
1.5.
Tommy, I'll start with you. Apparently, I have to call on individuals.
I'm going. 1.5 quarters. I wanted to see Najee Harris, who looked pretty good. I mean, honestly.
He didn't have much room to run, but that's the big question.
Nor will he. That'll be a theme.
That's true. It's
so,
just.
But I mean,
he looked like a regular season game.
He looked pretty good to me. I mean, his hands.
He made a couple moves. He didn't do anything that stood out. Micah Parsons was the one player, rookie, where I was like, he made a bunch of plays right off the bat, so I was impressed with him. Tommy, did you watch the whole game? It seems like something you would do.
Yeah, so much to surprise of everyone, I pretty much told myself I'm only going to watch for as long as I can recognize just starters. And Steelers were pushing them out a lot longer than I thought, and I was like, holy smokes. And by this time, I was already half it. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to watch the rest. But to surprise no one, I then went back the next day and DVR'd and rewatched everything slower. So it was.
You did not rewatch the Hall of Fame game, really?
Dude, I'm a degenerate. Will, you can judge me, and I know you guys will. I'm a piece of trash.
I can't. Come on, it's the NFL. I can't judge you for watching. But man, guy will not watch a movie to save his life, but he will rewatch the first Hall of Fame preseason game. All right, let's not make our guests wait any longer. We have the ultimate repeat champion coming on, and that is Mr. Jeff Schiesser, who's the co-host of The Year We Started a Podcast. He's been on multiple times. He has guest hosted the show in my absence, and he is a die-hard Kansas City Chiefs fan. Jeff, welcome back to the show, dude.
It's been a while. I'm glad to be back. This is going to be fun. I've listened to you guys for a very, very long time at this point, and happy to be a part of the show again.
This is your first time on with Tommy, so you get accustomed to Tommy, and you realize just how much more pleasant it is to work with him than Will. So
yeah, you know what? And I'll say with Tommy, you know what, Tommy, what I appreciate about you I think it was the very first episode you were on as the official third host. When you said that you were as like the Chiefs fan as a second place to your Eagles, oh man, I was like, I can at least listen to this podcast a little bit longer.
I like this
offset
guy now.
The Tom Brady love just enough that I can continue to listen. So I appreciate that.
And if you're not watching on YouTube, Tommy is sporting a Chiefs jersey. Is that Mahomes or is that a different
Yes,
place?
it is a Mahomes. Yeah. It has all these special little patchy things because I'm sure it's a knockoff. But yup, got my P. Mahomes right here.
I believe that's called pandering to the guest, but because the guest is Jeff, I'll allow it. So, as you can surmise, we've got one actual Chiefs fan on, one pandering Chiefs fan, and Tommy. We are going to continue our division preview series this week, previewing the AFC West. But before we get into that, let's start with some news. There's actually a fair amount of news, fair amount of deals getting done. But as always, today's episode is presented by Legit Football. Legit Football, the top 5 NFL stories of the day, delivered to your inbox every morning for free. Go to legitfootball.com and subscribe or look for the link in the episode description. So let's start with the quarterback position and the biggest of the big deals that went down, and that was quarterback Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills, runner-up for MVP, just short of moving on in the playoffs. 6 years, $258 million, averaged $43 million per year, which is second only to the aforementioned Patrick Mahomes, who averages $45 million a year, but he does get $150 million guaranteed, which is the most ever, which topped Mahomes, who previously had $141.5 as his guarantee. So I have to start with the Chiefs fan on this. How do you feel about Josh Allen's deal, especially as it relates to Mahomes' deal? Jeff?
So, I mean, I'll 100% say, like, one, I suppose I should start. It makes me feel really good about Pat's deal. If we're willing to pay Josh Allen this much, it makes me feel.
He's on a
good.
First name basis. He calls him Pat.
Yeah, but no, like seriously,
the guy
though,
brings the first Super Bowl to Kansas City in like 30 years. They have a right to call him by first name.
That's exactly what I was going to get at. Is as a team or as a fan of a team who has been through it for a very, very long time, if you can latch on to a quarterback like Pat Mahomes or like Josh Allen that turns your team into, just the ongoing mediocre at best team to now being a Super Bowl threat for the foreseeable future, honestly, and I'll get into this maybe a little bit, but for both teams, I think the Bills are a very good team. Obviously, a little bit of a homer pick, but I think the Chiefs are going to be good for a while too. But no, if you can find a franchise quarterback for a team that has been historically, mediocre here in recent times, like I feel extremely fortunate to have Mahomes, and I feel like the Bills fans feel very similarly. They feel very fortunate to have Josh Allen.
And before we move on and get Tommy and Will's thoughts, Jeff, I know you listened to our all PP Pro offense flavor of the week last week, and you will note that quarterback Josh Allen was picked by our illustrious producer, Anthony, as the starting quarterback for said all-PP Pro team. Your thoughts?
Hang on. Wait. Before you say anything,
okay, I
want to go on the. Did you at least hear that I came to your defense?
I did. You came to all the listeners' defense, Will, and I do appreciate.
Okay,
that.
Good. All right. I'm the haha jokey guy, but I just had to restore some sanity to our show in the midst of just.
Well, in fairness, Will, every single one of us was disagreeing with Anthony. It wasn't just you.
I texted Brian very quickly that I loved Tommy's comment that even Josh Allen's mom would have picked Mahomes too. That was a pretty good line.
Straight facts.
And very true. And very true.
You know what? But no offense, Anthony, I do disagree. But I do think, if you're going to pick a hot take at quarterback, it's not a terrible hot take. He's a good, very, very good quarterback. Bills are lucky to have him. What a guy who has stepped. There you go. A guy who's really stepped up into his potential. It's been very fun to watch for sure.
This is Jeff's first episode as a guest where we have sound effects. So feel free, Anthony, to just trip him up and throw him in the middle of anything he says. So clearly the contract reflects a quarterback that's as valuable as Josh Allen, runner-up in the MVP race, has completely turned around that franchise. Tommy, what are your thoughts on this contract?
Ironically, the first thing when I saw this I wasn't thinking Josh Allen. I was thinking Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, because it completely reset and it didn't reset the market, but the pressure's on it. The whole narrative was, Josh Allen needs to get signed, Baker Mayfield has to get signed, Lamar has to get signed. There's going to be a domino effect. What's going to happen? Out of the three, my best guess was, I don't know why, but I just kept thinking Josh Allen would get paid the most out of this. And I know a lot of people that are talking, about Cleveland, like, oh man, I wonder what Baker's going to get now. And I was like, well, I don't think I would put them on the same tier. I'm sure it's going to have some impact, but I'm not expecting Baker to even come. I know this sounds mean, but like I don't see it coming close to Josh Allen. He can't, like, he won't come in and say, "Give me that money." But
he's taken his team farther. You know, Josh Allen got to the AFC Championship game. Neither Baker nor Lamar have done that. That alone should merit the biggest contract.
I am thinking about Baltimore, though, because at least for Lamar, I could see his agent being like, hey, he won MVP already at such a young age. Look how much you guys depend on him for off, blah, blah, blah. So I'm very interested to see, but I did want to say, when I saw this, I was very happy for Josh. I'm a big Josh Allen fan, but that I don't know. My mind just immediately went to Baker and Lamar. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out.
Will, you mentioned something before we started recording with regards to...
Yeah, but hang on. I want to respond to Tommy's point.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Listen, it's valid, right? I 100% agree that I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to command this kind of money. However, we got to look at Dak's deal, $42 million, I think, averaged over 4 years, which is a lot of money. And you might not put Baker and Dak in the same tier, but it's closer, right? Like, I would say that Baker is closer to Dak than Josh Allen is closer to Dak and Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, I would say of the span of gap, he's more toward that side. So I don't know. The thing with Lamar, though, is you're right. He did take on the MVP, and he's kind of got a stranglehold on that team, right? Like, they've basically tooled that team and that entire offense around his skill set. So I would really not be surprised to see Lamar, even though, you could argue quote unquote worth. I would not be surprised to see him command like record setting money, maybe even surpassing Mahomes on an annualized basis.
That would have NFL Twitter going nuts. If
you're Baltimore, you just say, get your vaccine, and we will give you all the monies.
Dude, yeah, except for that.
Guy got COVID twice. Still not
they're going to have to subtract the toilet paper from his salary at the stadium. But yeah, I did. And, I mean, one thing that I just saw, and this is what Brian was alluding to, is they could have very easily made him the highest paid quarterback in the league, right? Like, they could have done that. I mean, they gave him the guaranteed money, which is, I guess you could call that like a nice consolation prize. I mean, it's a crap load of money, like no matter what. It's a lot of money. But I just, I saw an article talking about, I believe it was from Ari, talking about, the Bills ownership pretty much had always kind of viewed him as second tier to Mahomes, who they loved. And interestingly enough, that's kind of how they paid him. So I can get your guys' thoughts on that, but I mean, like,
well, Mahomes has the Super Bowl and the MVP and 3 straight AFC Championship games. So his his resume speaks louder than Josh's as well, regardless of how the Bills front office feels about Mahomes versus Allen. All right, let's move on. There are more contracts to talk about. Josh Allen will certainly get a chance to prove that last year was not a fluke, and we will be talking about his contract at the end of this year to see if he lived up to it. A linebacker got paid. Darius Leonard, linebacker for the Colts, is now the top paid inside linebacker. Will likes
I love our Walmart sound effects. They're so good.
It's like if clip art had a sound, it's that.
It honestly, it's the little paper clip comes up and it's like,
did you want a sound?
Hey. I'm okay with Clippy sounds, the little paperclip from Microsoft. I like it. Anthony, keep doing what you do. Darius Leonard's contract is 5 years, just shy of $100 million. Makes him the top paid linebacker, as I mentioned. This was predicted. This is not a surprise, but Will, I'll start with you on this one. Do you think this was a no-brainer paying Leonard? He's the key of that Colts defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Colts traditionally take care of their own, right? Which is good. It's they're building the right way. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. A quarterback now, which is a entirely different discussion. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised to see this. I mean, dude, certainly, in my opinion, is worth the money.
We don't have to have super strong opinions about a linebacker, so I'll just throw it up to Tommy and Jeff. Either of you have any thoughts on Leonard's contract before we move on?
I mean, I'll say, as a team that could really use some linebacker help, pay your linebackers. So,
yes.
Yeah. I honestly, you know what? If you have somebody who's a stud, I think take care of him, keep him on the team. That we would be very much better off if we had a player like him. So pay your guy.
Leonard has been an All-Pro in 2 of his first 3 seasons. I'd say that's a pretty good start to his career. And some personal Dolphins deal news, and I'm so glad to see this happen. Xavien Howard gets his contract reworked with Miami. So with the new incentives, so they basically structured it so that if he makes the Pro Bowl, he gets a certain amount. They gave him a higher guaranteed amount. And with those new incentives and the restructure, he can make upwards of $16.28 million, which would make him the league's highest paid cornerback for this season. And part of the agreement is they agreed to completely redo his deal next year if he hits these thresholds. So, Tommy, I'll start with you on this one. I'm not going to give my thought. I have spoken a lot about the Xavien Howard situation and how I thought the Dolphins should pay him, and especially when it came out that it wasn't about a new deal, it was just about restructuring it and getting more money this year. Seems like they saw that, they did it, and they locked down one of the best corners in the league.
Yeah, on my end, I think I was kind of thinking just like everyone else. I feel like the thing that everyone walked away when they heard the situation with Xavien Howard getting his contract reworked and all the details that you already alluded to, it's just a class act organization, and that's what Howard was saying the entire time. He just felt slighted because on his own team, he wasn't even getting paid, so they got really creative, figured out all these kind of things, and it was very clear by Flores and the rest of the organization that they were making this a top priority. So instead of kind of going to the public and trying to win fans over, being like, hey, sorry, this is what we can do. Kind of like what Green Bay has done. Not saying it's kind of the same thing, but it's really cool to see one organization say, hey, we need you. You're a part of the identity of what makes this whole machine go, and we can't afford to lose you. And they kind of put their money where their mouth is and said, hey, we're gonna swallow the pill and we're gonna help you out, kind of thing. So I feel like everyone kind of is optimistic about Miami, and rightfully so. I feel like this isn't one of the tantalizing ruses where everyone's saying, oh man, this is going to be lightning in a bottle. Maybe they'll be good again. No, now I'm saying they're building from the inside out, and that's kind of how you have to do it. So I'm very optimistic for Miami, and this is coming from someone who I feel like I shouldn't be throwing many bones your way, Bri, because I know you pick on the Eagles here and there, so it does pay me to say it does look like Miami is looking pretty great.
I objectively pick on the Eagles. I don't personally have anything against the Eagles.
That makes it worse.
They will have a special place in my heart from beating the Patriots. Nick Foles, Philly special. Just want to rub that in Will's a little bit.
Stop it.
Twist
I mean, here's the thing, right, is we just talked about a team taking care of their own. I wouldn't say really Miami has been known for that in the past. The other surprising thing is, which speaks to this regime, the other surprising thing is they just straight up added money to his deal. First time in NFL history that's happened with a player with, like, I believe 4 years left on his contract. It wasn't that much money, though. If you look at it, I mean, we're just talking a couple million,
right?
Which I guess is, I mean, in the grand scheme of, like, quarterbacks getting paid, not really that much, and it is incentives. So, but his agent came on Twitter talking about we're very happy with what they did. And again, I mean, just we've talked about Xavien Howard's impact. I think with Tua being the focus this year and all that stuff, you got to get him. You just have to lock down that spot and just shore up the defense. And very surprising move by the Dolphins, but a very good one, and I think a really good signal for Dolphins fans going forward that your organization is willing to do that to your key talent.
Well, the thing I said repeatedly is this defense is built a lot like the Belichick defense. It's back to front. You have to have excellent cornerback play in order to get it work. They don't have any stud pass rushers, so you need to have excellent coverage. You can't let a guy like Xavien Howard go. Jeff, the Dolphins defense picked off Mahomes 3 times last year. And for a split second, I had hoped that they would win. Of course, Mahomes quickly crushed that. But your thoughts on Howard's deal?
No, I think it's great. I mean, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add other than what's already been said, but I want to see the Dolphins succeed, not necessarily just because you view Brian, but always, like, just for the longest time, they've similar to the Chiefs had some a rough couple decades or so, and so they're one of those teams, just kind of like the Lions. Like you want them to win, not to
the Lions always get mentioned. Poor Anthony, just they're gonna find a way to trash the Lions.
But like I would love to see them succeed. I think I mean, honestly, what were they get 10 wins last year? Is that right? Or something close to that?
Yep, 10-6.
Oh my god!
But no, I think they're at the cut. I mean, obviously, it kind of will tip depending which way the Tua situation goes. Like if he turns out to be, what he's capable of being, then it's going to be a really, really fun time to be a Dolphins fan.
A career backup.
Every day I'm reading Dolphins beat writers. I have no idea what Will just said.
I just said a career backup.
Who, Tua?
Yeah.
What I've started to say before Will interrupts me is thank you, Anthony. Every single day I'm reading notes from training camp, and it's just glowing review after glowing review.
It's training camp, though, Brian. It's training camp.
I know, but give me
like
hope.
You
had a whole segment.
You want to hear something?
Out of everyone who's on here, I have not ever experienced a Super Bowl victory ever as a fan. All right,
Yeah,
Will's experienced multiple because he follows Brady around. And,
it's kind of nice.
Tommy
to
had
just get one every
2017.
year.
It
Jeff
feels
had
great,
2019.
man.
Listen, hang on, wait. Here's a question that I just off topic, and that's what we do because this is a party. I guess in memory of our guest who was supposed to be on here, have you guys heard anything out of like Herbert's camp this year? I haven't heard anything.
Well, before we go deep, we're going to preview the entire division. So let's finish with the news. Will's eager to talk about Herbert and the Chargers. We will get to that. We do have one more piece of news.
Division preview. That's good. Let's do it then. It makes more sense.
Not doing division preview? Do you not listen? You just tune out unless I call your name, right? It's like
pretty much.
You drink, you chew, you're on your phone, like, oh yeah, now I'm supposed to speak. One more piece of news that I did want to mention, and I'll let Tommy start with this one as our resident NFC East co-host. So Saquon is back. He was activated from the PUP list today and cleared for practice. He already today, we're recording this on Monday, was doing individual drills. That doesn't mean he'll definitely be back by week 1. It doesn't mean he'll be full on practicing anytime soon, but he's been cleared. He's able to practice, and he was doing drills today. As a reminder, he tore his ACL in the second game of the season last year for the Giants. Tommy, thoughts on the Barkley news?
Yay. It's kind of like how...
Dude, the Giants are a mess.
How about a fantasy perspective, Tommy, since I know you
fantasy-wise, it's also a mess because of how late he got the surgery and like how it might impact. Like people are saying hopefully he's back by week 1, but it wouldn't be surprised if he starts at week 3 and it might be a slow start. But for me, when it comes to Barkley, because obviously he went from Penn State, spoiler alert, I'm from the Philly area, so Penn State, woohoo.
Really? We didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You've never
like my
mentioned it
entire
before.
identity on the show, but just to refresh people. But Barkley for me, and I apologize, spoiler alert, if you guys get triggered, I apologize because this is going to get dark, but this is for comedic value. Barkley is like that kid whose parents died like in a tragic way. And now every time they're there, everyone that's around them feels bad. They're like, "Oh no, here's an extra ice cream. Oh no, you can do it. We poor you." Only because the situation.
Are you calling Saquon an orphan?
Yeah,
Saquon's an orphan in this scenario.
Like you look at him and there's a dumpster fire around him, and everyone's like, "Don't worry, like you guys reload. You got Galladay, and you could do this and that." And then you look at Danny Dimes over there, and you're like, "Oh, okay." And so now every time I see Saquon, it's like, look how they've massacred my boy. They've already murdered him once.
Did Daniel Jones kill Saquon's parents?
That's
in this
essentially
scenario?
that's actually exactly what he did.
And also, are Saquon's parents his tendons and his legs?
Hang on.
You heard it here
Does
first.
this mean-
Danny
no, real
Dimes'
quick, Will.
parents
I know-
killed Saquon's parents. That's what happened.
Does this mean that
Jeff,
Saquon
you're not
is
far off.
Batman?
Hold on, Will. Jeff, because
I think he
Saquon
does.
named his legs. Didn't he name his quads or something like that? So
Did he really?
He
I
has
had no
named
idea.
his body part, his legs, so they have been murdered. Yeah,
He
that
definitely
makes
named
sense.
his wiener. Well, we all know he named his wiener. Every athlete probably has a name
Crickets.
for their wiener. Let's be honest.
Why do we got to take that turn?
You don't have a name for your wiener?
What
Everybody
was
has
your
a name
other
for their
comment,
wiener.
Will? What was the original comment you were going to make before penises, is what popped in your head?
I said wiener. And also, I think that makes Saquon Batman, doesn't it?
I want to see Batman, but right now he's kind of at from my pop culture reference, he still has to climb out of that jail thingy. But he's just so battered to the point where I'm like, Saquon, I believe in you, but they're not doing you any favors. So I just want everyone to know before he got hurt, I remember this one game vividly where he had 15 carries and 8 yards. And I was like, bro, I'm the most unathletic person in the world, but he gave me faith that I could do it. I know I couldn't, but that's how bad he was doing behind that line. And he's a billion times more athletic than I'll ever be in my life. So I'm just like, man, even when he was fully healthy and didn't die, he was struggling. So now he's back and they're trying to lie to him saying it's better. And I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit of my Eagles fan saying, I'm just upset that the Giants are killing his career the way that they are.
Yeah, but look at the Giants. Like, every single day you hear some report that Joe Judge is trying to be like some badass, and some vet is just going, nah, dog. And just
they've had like 3 people like retire. Legitimate.
Yeah, like
three different Giants have retired during
this
training
this,
camp.
Tommy?
No, I know, but I love when people shine to the fact of it, because like so many people are drinking the Kool-Aid on Judge right now. But when I see it, I see it through the lens of you guys. I'm like, that's so cheesy, bro. Like, you're forcing it so hard.
He's trying to be like mini Belichick or whatever, and it's not work. It never works.
He has like not enough clout to try to pull that off.
Right, like win a few Super Bowls, then you can do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, this would probably be a hot take, but like, I think the only person that I've seen that come from like the Belichickian dynasty and really do well, and they haven't even like won a Super Bowl, is Flores.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't think of another person that has come from that.
I would still say it's too early to tell Flores. I like what he has done, but if that is the best person to come out, I agree with you. It's really disappointing. What I'm saying.
We'll say this much: Flores has the coaching talent because he has overperformed the talent on his roster 2 years in a row. Whether that can keep up and he can win a Super Bowl down the road, obviously that remains to be seen, but he has coached above the talent on his roster. That shows coaching prowess. And with that positive note on Brian Flores, I'm going to go ahead and segue in to our division preview. So as a reminder, we are previewing the AFC West. As we have been doing, we will go in the order of the 2020 standings. That means that Jeff's Chiefs will be first, followed by the Raiders. Yeah, remember the Raiders almost made the playoffs last year? That was weird. They came in second in the AFC West. Take that as you will. The Chargers and then the Broncos. We'll talk about key losses, key additions, drafts, and injury, players coming back from injury, all of these things, and then each go around and make our prediction of where we think the division will end up in 2021. So, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs, coming off a horrible Super Bowl loss. Sorry, Jeff. But you had a nice win the year before. Jeff was on our Super Bowl recap episode.
That was rough, a little rough.
Yeah, and we booked that months in advance.
That was great.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It was a good show. So key players re-signed. They re-signed safety Daniel Sorensen and running back Darrell Williams. They added offensive tackle Orlando Brown, defensive tackle Jerron Reed, guard Joe Thuney, former Patriot, guard Kyle Long, who retired for a season and then decided to come back, Austin Blythe, who used to be with the Rams, running back Jerick McKinnon with the 49ers, and interior defensive lineman, I have Jerron Reed twice. Once again, my stats and research guy needs to get fired. Key departures, wide receiver Sammy Watkins now in Baltimore. Both tackles, Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. Would-be Super Bowl MVP Damian Williams, who went to Chicago. Fullback Anthony Sherman. I believe Sherman retired. Cornerback Brashad Breeland. And edge Frank Clark isn't technically a loss yet, but he's been arrested and is facing like weapons charges. So we're going to call him a key departure at this point. And key draft picks, linebacker Nick Bolton, center Creed Humphrey, and defensive end Joshua Kando. Vegas has the line at plus minus 12.5 wins. Jeff, obviously we got to start with you on this. How are you feeling about your Chiefs this year?
So I can't remember. Am I supposed to do what my prediction for the record is as part of my?
Just go whatever.
Okay.
It's changed every week, so whatever you feel like.
Well, first, before we get to how I think they're going to finish out, I want to talk a little bit about how the offseason has gone for us. Obviously, it's not a super big surprise what our biggest weakness was, as it was in the most recent NFL game, aside from the Hall of Fame game. Very, very apparent on national television what we needed to address this offseason, that being our offensive line. It is definitely...
By the way, 498 yards behind the line of scrimmage by Mahomes will do that.
Yeah.
Still can't believe that number.
Pretty apparent. So yeah, we blew that up over the offseason, and we'll see how that goes. We obviously have added a lot of names, but offensive line is people don't really realize how much of a cerebral game that is there in the trenches, and so I genuinely don't think that that's going to be something that comes together until probably, if we're lucky, midway through the year. Which we'll get into in a second, just some thoughts that I have. But That's basically worst case scenario for us because our strength schedule is very, very, very front loaded. I'll talk about that. But so we've added a lot on the offensive line side. Our secondary has been mediocre at best, but we do have a lot of young guys that do have a lot of promise there. There are a lot of people that I think have a lot of promise there. What I'm least what I'm most worried about is our run defense. We tried to address it the best that we could. We drafted Nick Bolton the second round with our first pick. But I don't think that that's going to be enough to really make a dent in that, because that's aside from blitzing Mahomes constantly and all the pressure you can put on him, time of possession is the other way you can beat the Chiefs. And we need to be able to stop the run. And at this point, I don't think that that's something that I'm super confident that we're going to be able to do. And then obviously we mentioned the Frank Clark situation. I do think he'll play. Like, he's in training camp right now, and I don't think his trial got moved to October. Yeah. So I think he'll at least be around for a few weeks. But even that said, he hasn't lived up to his contract. And I think of anything that is the most frustrating for the next few years for the Chiefs is the burden that he's going to be on the cap, whether he's in jail or on the team. I think it's going to be a little rough. We have, I think Tyreek's contract is in not next year, but the year after that. And Frank's cap hit will still be there regardless, like I said, whether he's there or not. And that's $21 million going to a guy who is okay at best on a good day and on a bad day in jail. So we'll see how that goes. It would really, really suck to lose a talent like Tyreek. But yeah, so going into next year, here's why I will take the over on the Vegas odds, because you said 12 wins.
12.5.
At 12.5, I think we can make 13 or 14 wins. But I do think the beginning of the year is going to be a little bit rough, because we have our offensive line figuring out how to gel as a unit and work within the offense. Basically, everybody's new with a couple exceptions. But in the first 9 games of the season, we have 7 very difficult teams. We have the Browns, Ravens, Chargers, Bills, football team, Titans, and the Packers. Like that. That's a rough gauntlet.
Those are playoff teams. Yeah.
Those are all really good playoff teams. I don't mean this bad, Tommy, at all, but we have a couple easier ones with the Eagles and
you're just stating facts.
And the Giants in there.
Tommy is taking off his Mahomes jersey.
Tommy's out. Tommy's naked. Tommy's naked.
Tommy is not. He has an undershirt on smartly, but he no longer has that. Did not last long at all.
Hey, you know what? I appreciated you taking a Kelsey, Kelsey as your center for the
oh, look at him kissing
team.
up now. He's trying to get Tommy back on his side.
I thought that was
Kelsey.
pretty good.
Yo, anyone here batteries? I ran out.
But anyways, yeah, no, those are 7 really, really rough games to start out the season. So I do think we'll probably pick up a few losses. In my notes here, I put us at 14-3. I feel like that's potentially. Obviously, we need to be healthy, and obviously our offensive line needs to exist for that to be a reality. But I think that's possible. And I do think the back end of the season, we have a very good chance of winning out the last 8 games of the season. But we'll see.
I got a stupid prediction for the Chiefs, and it's 15-2. Like, I hate that team. Hate them.
What's just to hate about the
annoying.
Chiefs?
They're just annoyingly good, dude. Like, in just every aspect of.
By the way, that was the Patriots for 20 years.
I know
the other side.
Oh my God, yeah, I get it. But I don't think the offensive line is going to take that long to figure it out. There's just too many weapons. You got other teams also in the beginning of the season figuring it out. Tom Brady and the Bucs offense had to figure out for the first half of the year how to play together. So I really don't see a problem. I see the Chiefs as brute forcing a lot of those teams and just figuring it out. Even with all the problems on the offensive line, if they would have played anybody else in that Super Bowl, they would have easily crushed them. So, anyway, no, I see it as just another day. I didn't realize they got McKinnon though. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Damian Williams in Chicago. McKinnon is now, although supposedly Darrell Williams has looked good in camp, so I don't know what McKinnon may be more of a third down back. Darrell Williams will spell Edwards-Helaire. Tommy, I don't know if you're feeling less hype about the Chiefs now that you've removed the Mahomes jersey. But what are your thoughts on Kansas City?
Yeah, there's not much to add because Jeff did so eloquently kind of give us a really good overview on how their offseason has kind of unwinded so far. But similar to everyone here, I am taking the over. I'm taking 14 wins. I mean, they did it last year. There's an extra game, so to do it again isn't that big of a feat. And to me, I think kind of echoing what everyone's saying, what I'm seeing right now is Patrick Mahomes, it's so hard to have a chip on your shoulder when your first full season you become the MVP, and then the next year you win Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, and then the next year you go to the Super Bowl but then lose. But if they were to ever have a chip on their shoulder, it's definitely now after being embarrassed in the Super Bowl. So I'm kind of, and it's not a hot take at all. Usually I like to be contrarian, but what I see is what everyone else is predicting. We're going to see a pissed off revenge tour where they try to torch the world on fire, be like, okay, Josh Allen, you making a lot of money? Well, my name is Patrick Mahomes. Welcome. This is why I'm going to win MVP again. And so, yeah, I'm predicting them to kind of pop off. And similar to what Jeff said, I really do enjoy what he said. The offensive line isn't like a Pro Bowl, all-pro ballot where you just bring in a bunch of all-pro people and make a great line. I'm sure that will definitely work, but in similar cases when you're just pulling people off and trying to reestablish the chemistry, it should take a little bit. But Andy Reid knows that. Patrick Mahomes knows that. They're going to probably implement quick passes in the beginning and slowly incorporate everything. But because they have that central core of players there, I think that will still be able to help kind of bring that offensive line along. But I do predict another really strong season.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of echo all of that. Here's what I see when I look at the Chiefs. Basically the same team as last year. And what I mean by that is an elite, one of, if not the best offenses in the league, and a middling to mediocre defense. That's the same team they've had when they won the Super Bowl and when they went to the AFC Championship in Mahomes' MVP season and lost to the Patriots. This is a formula that has worked for them. The biggest question mark is the offensive line. However, they just have to be a little bit better than what they had last year. Mahomes has never had a great offensive line. He's had middle of the road, 15 to 18. If you look at their PFF rankings or their DVOA, it's not like they've had an elite line and all of a sudden the line just went to crap at the end of the season. They just were really decimated to where they're at like third stringers in that, and going up against one of the best front sevens in the league and the Bucks. It was just a mismatch of epic proportions. But Orlando Brown, huge upgrade over both Fisher and Schwartz. Joe Thuney, one of the best guards in the league. Kyle Long remains to be seen because he sat out a year, but Blythe or Humphrey, whichever one of those guys is going to be an upgrade at center. So even if they're like a league average offensive line, with all those weapons in Mahomes, that's really all you need. I think their biggest question marks are the same question marks they've had. Pass rush, especially if Frank Clark isn't there. Although, like Jeff said, it's not like he's been some revelation on the other side of Chris Jones. But that's all you do have. You have Chris Jones. Jerron Reed is known to be more of a pass rushing defensive tackle. Maybe he can provide some pressure, but he's not a great run blocker. They don't have a big upgrade at linebacker unless Nick Bolton comes along quickly. So you're still going to have issues against the run, but it doesn't matter because you'll just be able to outscore people with that offense. So I'm thinking 14 wins as well. I think it's going to be the same old Mahomes, same old, assuming no injuries, because that's the thing is there's not a lot of depth. You've got two of the best weapons in the game in Hill and Kelsey, but if one of those guys goes down, that changes everything.
Oh, so the disrespect of Byron Pringle. How dare you?
I'm actually in on McCole Hardman. I've been reading a lot of good things about him in camp. I drafted him in my dynasty league. So yeah, I'm liking Hardman, but still not a lot of fully proven pass catchers behind those two. If they stay healthy, yeah, I could see 14-3 for the Chiefs. Let's move on to the team who, like I said, surprisingly finished second in the AFC West last year and came somewhat close to the playoffs, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. Key players re-signed left tackle Colton Miller, linebacker Nick Morrow, and quarterback Marcus Mariota, but remains to be seen. There's been a lot of rumors out there in the Twitterverse that Mariota could be long for another team. Key additions, running back Kenyon Drake, which I still don't get, out of Arizona. They still have Josh Jacobs. The wide receiver John Brown from the Bills. Edge Yannick Ngakoue, which is a great signing from a pass rush perspective. Cornerback Casey Hayward. Defensive tackle Solomon Thomas, formerly of the 49ers, first-round pick. And Gerald McCoy, who is still in the league, apparently signed a free agent contract recently with the Raiders. This is the kind of thing, like I'm going through the depth charts. I'm like, oh, Gerald McCoy, look at that. He's still around. Key departures, Nelson Aguilar, who is now with the Patriots. Center Rodney Hudson. I actually mentioned him as my pick for best center in the league. Is now, and this is where it really gets interesting with the Raiders. Center Rodney Hudson now in Arizona. Right tackle Trent Brown back with the Patriots. Guard Gabe Jackson now in Seattle. they just decimated their offensive line and really didn't do enough to replace it. Short of like the rookie who is offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood. A lot of people thought they reached for him by picking him early in the first round. I think it was pick 17 or 18. Safety Trevon Moehrig, and then defensive end Malcolm Kuntz. Vegas has their plus-minus win total at 6.5. Tommy, I'll start with you on this one. How are you feeling about the Raiders this year?
Okay, I have a love-hate relationship with the Raiders because my father-in-law is a huge Raiders fan. Unfortunately, my wife and I are big Chiefs fans because we lived in Kansas City for a little bit. But
Wait. Tommy, you're not a big Chiefs fan. You can't be from Philly, be Philly trash, love your Eagles, and be a big Chiefs fan.
Tommy's like low-key me.
Yeah.
Are you becoming Will? Are you becoming fair weather?
I'm a fair weather fan, but I'm like, I attended like 8 Chiefs games before Mahomes even started a game in Arrowhead, so you can't call me out on that.
Tommy, I live 15 minutes from Levi Stadium. I'll go to every single 49ers home game. I will never be anything but a Dolphins fan.
Hey,
that's not a good excuse.
I'm allowed to have more than you guys could blame me for liking 2 teams, but that's a you problem, not a me problem. I'm very happy being loyal to like
Tommy,
the Chiefs.
Liking
got
2
Andy
teams.
Reid, dude.
There's Andy Reid's the best.
Exactly.
There's liking teams, and then there's biggest fan. That's the point. I
like how a Miami fan is telling
wording.
a Philadelphia fan how to be a fan. This is like in itself ironic.
I've been
I have
loyal.
more passion than the average Joe. So if it spills out to a team that's Eagles Junior, not Eagles Junior really, because they have Andy Reid, they had so many old Eagles player head over there as well. I'm like, hey, why can't I love 2 teams?
I'll give you the Eagles connection. I'll give you the Andy Reid connection as a former Eagles
and
coach.
Living there for 2 years connection. I know for you it doesn't mean much. For me, I'm like, I'm relatively still young. That's a big part of my life that I spent over there and went to a lot of games. So hey, we retracted, but sorry, guys. I know Brian likes to do it, and he blames Will, but we all know Will and I are the engine that keeps this going, so I will keep us back on track.
You guys are simpatico. It's me versus the 2 of you. That's how it's become.
But to get back on track, I was all in to pick the Raiders as my, not dark horse, but surprising to be hot takey, to be like, oh, I'm going to have them come in second over the Chargers, which I think a lot of people wouldn't do. But then you reminded me that they completely decimated their offensive line, and I just don't see it. The way that the Raiders typically play, they play so many ugly games, which is why they're almost always in it. They're always in those one-possession games because Chucky himself knows how to coach old school to the point where like, time of possession, let's do it, the Raiders.
On that note, real quick, Tommy, sorry to interrupt your thing. So on that exact note, I was looking up some stats for the AFC West preview, and the Raiders led the league in time tied with their opponent. They led the league with the amount of time they were tied with their opponent. That's the definition of mediocrity.
The way that Gruden plays, he always likes, he never gambles. He always goes for a net positive play. So that's why Josh Jacobs was such a good fit to that offense. He'll always have, one positive run here, a 2-yard gainer, 3-yard gainer, or maybe a little thing here. They just don't go backwards. And because they play this really annoying style of archaic offense, it keeps the ball, possession of the ball a lot, and it just controls the tempo of the game. So whenever you play the Raiders, you play the way the Raiders want. And so that's why I feel like they're always so much better than people say. Like, they went 8-8, almost made the playoffs, and everyone here is kind of cringing their face. So that's why I say, all right, this year the dice have to roll a little bit more their way this time. But because of the whole offensive line, I just don't see how it could happen. But if it can happen, it will be Chucky doing that annoying brand of coaching he does. But still, I think you said 6.5 was the line. Is that correct, Brian?
Correct.
Yeah, just I got to still go with the gut. I got to pick the over. My original thing was I was going to be hot taking, say they're going to win 10, but more looking at it now, of course, I'm going to roll back. I think I'll only say like 8.
To quote Jon Gruden in Hard Knocks, knock wood if you're with me.
Oh, that was so annoying.
By the way, this will air on Wednesday. Hard Knocks will have debuted yesterday, Tuesday. Very excited to watch that. Will, how are you feeling about the Raiders this year? Okay, that's the take of all takes, Jeff. We'll move on to you. Anthony, I hope you recorded that, and that'll be a new sound drop for bad teams.
That's Will's sound bit there for, he doesn't have an opinion other than they're going to be bad. And to be quite honest, I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add to what Will's great commentary was there. I
actually wasn't expecting you. I was joking. Will can certainly talk, but if Will wants to just pass the buck to you,
I tried to pause enough, and he did not look like he had anything else to add.
I don't think he wants.
That's actually that's it. That's all the analysis.
That was literally the entire analysis. So, Jeff, what do you have to add?
I don't think they're going to be a good team next year. I don't. You will get to the Chargers here in a second, but I don't think the Raiders are going to be the second best team in the AFC West. I think probably far from that. I didn't know what the Vegas line was before this. I had them at 7-10 on my notes here, so I'm going to stick with it. But that's not to say that I think they're going to be good. I don't think this is going to be the Raiders' year at all. I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. It feels like this is going to be the Chiefs and Chargers division for at least the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'll give Gruden this. He has done a good job of having a solid offense. It can be archaic, Tommy, but it works. I think Derek Carr is actually the perfect quarterback for that offense. He's the last 2 to 3 seasons has been one of the top quarterbacks in the league in protecting the football. He just doesn't really throw interceptions because he tends to be safer and doesn't take as many chances.
Like I said,
but
the net positive plays by Gruden.
Yeah, it works perfectly in that offense. But their defense has been atrocious, and I did not see enough improvements. Yannick Ngakoue is a great signing. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. He doesn't defend the run. He really just picks his spots when he wants to play. Basically, if it's third down and a passing down, he's going to rush. And yeah, he does it better than most of the edge rushers in the league. But that's not enough to make up for the fact that this secondary was atrocious and they didn't really do a lot to address it. The offense was the strength, but what did they do? They made the offensive line worse. And they got rid of one of the best centers, even if you don't say he's the best, and Rodney Hudson. 2 very solid, Trent Brown at tackle and Gabe Jackson. I mean, these are really good players that you're getting rid of and bringing on a rookie who may not be ready for it yet. And a lot of people think that he was overdrafted. So that's my thing. They finished 8-8 last year. Their defense isn't noticeably better, and their offense is a little bit worse. So 7-10, I might go the under on this. I might say that they could be like a 6-11 team. I don't think they're the worst team in the league. They're not Texans. They're not Lions. Sorry, Anthony. They're not the Eagles even. Tommy,
oh my God. Bad. I gave you time to not say the Eagles and you still took it.
Had to.
You took the bait.
Had to. But I'm going to go with the under. I don't like the way this Raiders team is built. I don't think that.
I just did it for Anthony. That was my Eagles sound effect.
Wait, that was you? I thought that was a sound effect. I thought that was a sound drop. I was trying to figure out from Anthony.
It was just so realistic.
Yeah, I was like, Anthony, what exact sound check? No, that was just Will being Will. Anthony, don't do any sound drops. Will's going to provide them.
Why don't you just pay me Anthony's money? I can do this. I can do this job. I won't edit it, but I'll just do the sound effects.
Okay, fair enough. That's all we need is the sound effects. There you go, Anthony. He's not too quick to give up his job. But yeah, I just don't like the way, I don't think Mayock has done a great job as GM.
No,
not only from the free agent standpoint, but in evaluating draft picks, they've missed on a lot of them.
Where's Cleveland Farrell at? Like that. I mean, they picked him super high.
And that's the thing. He's actually been he still starts. He's a solid defensive lineman. He's actually very good versus the run. He's above average versus the run, but he doesn't add much in the pass rush. And he certainly was not worth the number 4 overall pick.
Yeah, number 4, right.
Yeah,
I thought it was 4 or 5. But.
No, that's the problem. He was number 4 overall, and that has been the issue. And Leatherwood could end up being a solid tackle, but most draft pundits didn't feel that he was worth the number 18 overall pick. So big year. I think the seats for both of them could, even though Gruden's got that 10-year contract and he's only in year 4, I think the seats could get really hot this year if they regress and do what we're all predicting, which is finish well below 500. So let's not spend any more time on the Raiders. Let's move on to the next team, which is the Los Angeles Chargers. I know Will is excited, so after I go through the player additions and subtractions, we'll let Will start to talk about Mr. Herbert. So key players re-signed: cornerback Michael Davis, cornerback Brandon Fakison. I have no idea how to pronounce that name. Key additions. Let's just go to the next part. Center Corey Linsley, which is a great ad out of Green Bay. Tight end Jared Cook. Right tackle out of the Steelers, Matt Filer, and safety Derwin James, who is coming back from injury. That's really the biggest addition right there, plus Linsley. Key departures: tight end Hunter Henry, who went to New England. Quarterback Tyrod Taylor, now that his lung is better, who's starting in Houston. Safety Rayshon Jenkins. Linebacker Melvin Ingram. And this is the notable part here, and one of the things I want to bring up. Cornerback Casey Hayward. Linebacker Denzel Perriman. And cornerback Desmond King. They lost a lot of talent on defense. Key 2021 draft picks. They got a steal in having offensive tackle Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern fall to them. Cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. By the way, I haven't mentioned this yet. The fact that Asante Samuel went to Florida State, quick moment of silence for Bobby Bowden, greatest coach in Florida State history, one of the greatest coaches in college football history, passed away. Bobby, you'll always be remembered here. National championship when I was a freshman at Florida State in '99. Rest in peace. Okay, back to the football talk.
A quick moment of silence.
Quick moment. Well, we still have a podcast to run. We got listeners who
fair enough.
Are listening to the NFL, and they may not really follow college football. And then wide receiver Josh Palmer and tight end, former Seminole, who ended up transferring to Georgia, tight end Trey McKitty. Vegas has their win total at 9.5, so feeling pretty positive. Will, what are your thoughts on Justin Herbert and the Chargers?
Well, it was a question that I posed earlier. I mean, maybe it's just because I don't run in these circles, and I know that we were about to have a guest that absolutely runs in those circles. But I mean, have you guys heard much out of like Herbert's camp so far? I mean, I really haven't. It's just been really quiet.
Come to think of it, because I've been really closely monitoring the training camp buzz in general. I haven't seen much from the Chargers, period.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like I don't know if it's just because I don't have those circles on my social media and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, or like
I follow as many of these beat writers that are at these training camps as I can, so that I can get all this information. I'm going through notification after notification all day long. But I haven't really seen much on the Chargers, which is surprising. That could be rookie head coach trying to keep things tight a little bit. And you can't really eliminate the press coverage, but maybe things just don't look too bad or too good. They just look, right on track.
I mean, Eckler, probably is going to be a stud again. Keenan Allen's always great. I really don't think the loss of Hunter Henry does much to that offense, really. Mike Williams has flashed. They got that speedy kid. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about. The guy that was good for like a long TD like every few games out of nowhere. So I don't know, man. I really like that team. I think they're a fun team. I think Keenan Allen's great. I don't think Keenan Allen is as good as Keenan Allen thinks Keenan Allen is.
Keenan Allen's one of the best route runners in the NFL.
Sure.
He's a beast.
Sure, but I don't think when you look at like the overall package, Keenan Allen isn't playing in the same deck of cards as like Mike Evans or Tyreek or any of the other like number ones that you can.
I think Tyreek is in a class of his own with the type of weapon he is, but I would rather have Keenan Allen than Mike Evans. For a quarterback going into his second year, the beauty of Keenan Allen, he's such a precise route runner that he gets open. It's very difficult to cover him. Evans is more of a down the field, deep ball, amazing hands, go up and win 50-50 balls. But that's not great for a rookie quarterback. Having a wide receiver, and it's one of the things I think personally that has allowed Herbert to develop so quickly, is he was throwing to Keenan Allen like 12 times a game because Allen was open. So having a wide receiver who you can rely on to be open and get the ball to, I think is a great fit for that offense.
I'm not going to disagree. So, yeah, I mean, who knows, man? It's a fun team to watch. I think Eckler's, a stud. So, I'm here for it. I mean, Derwin James, too, like as much as it pains me to say Florida State, I mean, you don't want guys like that to not be playing football.
Yeah.
Right? And speaking of this, I know this is a little off topic, but I wasn't here when we talked on that week about what we talked about. But, it's funny when you think about just players playing football. Kirk Cousins was in the news this week for being all kinds of stupid in a press conference. And it's
like that?
It's crazy. You like that? It's crazy to me, like, how my perception of football players is being changed by this whole thing. Normally, like, your perception of these guys is pretty much like 100% based on what they put on the field, right? Like, you like Patrick Mahomes, but like you don't know anything about Patrick Mahomes, really. I mean, you could if you're like a legit
ketchup
fan,
on his steak. That's all I need to know.
And
he has a wife that you don't like.
Really annoying. Yeah, his choice in women is really bad, really bad. But you know what I mean? Like, you don't know the person, and I think what the interesting thing about this COVID situation is, like, you're seeing a lot more of like football player, the person. So I don't know why I went on that tangent, but what I was trying to say is that
Will going on a tangent? Never.
Derwin James.
Look at this. Tommy's from Philly, and Will goes on tangents. We're just setting new.
Derwin James needs to be playing football because that dude is just too friggin' good.
Yeah, agreed. All pro as a rookie, and we just haven't been able to see him because he's been injured the past 2 seasons. So we'll go to Tommy
Cam
next
Akers.
on this. How are you feeling about the Chargers?
All
A lot of
right.
hype surrounding LA right now.
I am going to be the bad guy here, and I'm fully okay with that. The Chargers is literally everyone's Cinderella team every freaking year. Every year they say, this is the Chargers year. They look great on paper. It's going to happen. And what happens? Their entire team gets decimated with injuries or some weird bad luck happens. Like everyone knows that famous statistic, the year when they had the number 1 offense and number 1 defense, they still didn't get to the playoffs because they had like the last ranked special. Like something always happens with this team, but this is everyone's darling team because for some weird reason, no one hates the Chargers. And maybe, like I said, I went to Arrowhead a bunch of times. We all hate the Chargers, of course. But like, they all hate the Broncos and the Raiders way more than the Chargers. So it's almost like they fell into this weird area where they're like, oh, they had LT. Look, they have Herbie now. Like, Austin Eckler's a lot of fun to watch. Derwin, like, I don't know what it is about this team that it's so, I guess it's because Spanos is there and everyone hates him. So everyone feels bad for the Chargers and they're that young, sexy, exciting team.
No, it's
but
because they're perennially underachievers. That's how the AFC East feels about the Jets. Like nobody hates the Jets. They could just feel sorry for the Jets.
You know who I really like as a kid watching football though? I was a huge Junior Seau fan.
Yeah.
Like, how could you not be?
Yeah.
You know?
That man played with passion, but similar to all these reasons, I love watching them. Don't hear what I'm not saying. They're going to be great to watch, but I think they're going to disappoint.
Don't hear what I'm not saying.
Yeah, that's like one of the famous phrases. But like I said, I don't think they're going to do as great as everyone wants them to do because they never reach those heights. But that shouldn't be like used against them. Just because I don't think they're going to do as good as everyone else says doesn't mean they're not going to have a good season. But I guess my hot take right now, even though my brain is telling me not to, will be I think the Raiders will end up as a better team overall wise than the Chargers, even though it makes no sense. But that's only me doubling down on I don't know what it is with the Chargers. Like as an Eagles fan who believes his team is cursed all the time, I look over at the Chargers, I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Tommy throws common sense out the window and plants his flag.
Exactly. I say, you know what? I believe in curses now. Sorry, Chargers. You still got something going on here. I don't know what you guys did wrong, but something bad always happens to you guys, unfortunately.
Jeff, as a Chiefs fan, how do you feel about the Chargers and Justin Herbert's development?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for how long we've been recording now? A good 45 minutes an hour. Because originally we were going to have a Chargers beat writer on here to talk about this. So I wanted to be well-spoken and given some analysis. So I watched I shouldn't say film. I've watched a lot of highlights from last year. I watched a ton of Herbert stuff. And actually, before I say that, I do want to take a half a step back. And Tommy, you mentioning that Chargers season where they had the best offense and best defense and didn't even make the playoffs. I don't even have my podcast is nothing about the NFL at all. But that was one of my backlog topics of things I wanted to talk about because it's the most bizarre thing ever because it's the most Chargers thing ever to have that happen.
You've had some NFL things on your. I was on your podcast talking NFL.
I mean, you were on there. It's not NFL focused in the same sense that this is.
True.
But no. So I watched a lot of Chargers highlights from the past year, and I look at a lot of data. So my professional life, I do data stuff for a living, and I looked at a lot of things. And man, Herbert's year last year, by all accounts, was phenomenal from a statistical standpoint. The kid almost set the yardage record despite playing one less game than Andrew Luck. Touchdown record, yards per game, blew it out of the water for a rookie quarterback. And so from a statistical standpoint, my goodness, am I excited for this next year from an NFL standpoint. Obviously, Chiefs fan, I want to hate the Chargers, but like you said, I hate the Broncos and the Raiders so much more. I have no idea why. But I'm really excited to see what he does next year. But then I watched his film from last year, every touchdown he scored, every significant pass that he had last year. And that kid has a knack for finding the open man. I'm so glad you said it, Brian, of having Keenan Allen as such a good asset for a rookie quarterback. That guy got open, but it wasn't just him. Herbert found open receivers the entire, obviously you throw to the open guy, but the knack for him to be able to find the open receiver all year last year was incredible. If you watched any of those highlights, the amount of times you hear the announcer saying there's Herbert, throw it to the wide open whoever it is, or he found the wide open. Like he found more so than any quarterback I've watched recently the open man. I think we're going to be in for something next year. Like I legitimately believe it. I think we're going to have a huge leap into his sophomore season. This is probably the hottest of hot takes, especially from a fan of a division rival team. I don't see the Chargers losing more than 4 or 5 wins next year. I legitimately don't. Looking at their schedule, like I think they go 12-5 or 13-4, and they are absolutely going to be a threat to the Chiefs if we suffer at the beginning of the season.
Because this is what they say every year. Everyone says this about the Chargers. Clip it.
Yeah, but Tommy, all the other years for your entire life, basically, it's been Phillip Rivers as the quarterback.
Clip it right here. Herbert can do no wrong, apparently. There's no such thing as regression.
Rivers,
Everyone gets better year 2. Clip it. Here we
Herbert,
go. Super Bowl
okay,
Chargers.
Yeah, you clip it. No, I'm not saying Super Bowl, but that's a little crazy. But no, seriously, like Herbert's this year as a rookie quarterback, like, and this isn't like his first year like Pat had. I'm sorry, I should say Mahomes, so I don't get trashed by Will over there.
You don't have to change your behavior just to avoid Will's wrath. Be you.
Mahomes' first year that he actually played, he got to sit an entire year in an amazing system with Andy Reid, with amazing assets, with Kelsey and Hill that were already in place. You're talking like they like just. The fact that he's able to do that, I mean, it is. I mean, Keenan Allen's a fantastic receiver, but they don't have the assets that Kansas City had when Mahomes started, and he was still able to put in one of the best, or honestly, I think the best rookie quarterback season of all time. I think that him with another year of experience under his belt, I think the Chargers are going to be something special. Like they might not have all the other pieces on the other side of the ball. They might not be perfect, but like I think we're going to see some really fantastic quarterback play in the AFC West. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
So I was very high on the Chargers until I started preparing for this preview, and I was really digging into some things. Now my biggest question mark, and it from all accounts, watching Herbert last year, and especially what you were just mentioning, Jeff, I think he can overcome this, but he is going to have an entirely new coaching staff, an entirely new offensive coordinator all around him in just his second season.
Mahomes did he lose his quarterback coach too? Is that right?
The whole coaching staff was turned over. Yeah. Brandon Staley came in, former defensive coordinator for the Rams. Joe Brady, who was a quarterback's coach in New Orleans, so obviously he's had a lot of time working with Breeze. Great resume. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. I'm not saying that's not a recipe for success. It's just a change. So there's some uncertainty on how a guy who did so well with everything lined up well in his rookie season, now there's changes. And is it detrimental? Is he able to adapt? We'll have to see. Like Will mentioned, we actually haven't seen a lot coming out of their camp, which is surprising. I'd like to think that's just because there's nothing compelling to tell, or maybe they're just so used to Herbert's greatness. But my biggest question marks are on the defense. That's when I really started to question myself, when I saw just how many players they lost and just how valuable. We talked about Melvin Ingram when he signed with the Steelers, but looking at his stats, he was actually second on the team in pressures, even though he only played 7 games last year. Still managed to be second on the team in pressures behind Joey Bosa. So that's going to be a loss. Denzel Perryman was actually a top 10 linebacker. He's gone. Casey Hayward was one of the better coverage corners. He's now gone. Rayshon Jenkins was a great box safety who really stepped up to stop the run.
But Herbert is so good. It doesn't matter. They're going to win 12 to 14 games. It doesn't matter what you say.
I'm coming around to that. So But Brandon Staley is a great defensive coach, runs a completely different scheme than Gus Bradley did, who, by the way, Gus Bradley, former defensive coordinator for the Chargers, now the defensive coordinator for the Raiders, to be determined if that actually does anything. But Brandon Staley runs a completely different scheme. So does it translate with this lack of talent? They didn't add enough guys to make up for that. You've still got Joey Bosa, and if Derwin James stays healthy, those are 2 top 10 defenders easily. But as I started to break this down, I said, well, this is starting to look more like the Chiefs. You've got perhaps a generational quarterback, not quite the weapons.
Here we go.
You don't have a Tyreek Hill. You don't have
one rookie year. Everyone's about to crown him.
Tommy hates the Chargers. Like I've never seen him act like this.
I don't hate the Chargers. I hate the hype that follows. Like I love Herbert. He's one of the most exciting quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, but the fact that after a rookie season, everyone thinks that he could do no wrong, and thinking analytically, I'm like, guys, why are you putting on such a pedestal? Because he has one couple hiccups, you guys are going to hate him, and I don't want to see that. So I'm trying to bring people back to reality, being like, yo, he had one of the most exciting rookie years ever. But come on, guys, let's not crown him. Let's go.
Well, I'm not saying I didn't say I'm not crowning.
I kind of want to crown him now. Actually, I'll be honest. Like
I need to see. I need to see how he plays.
Him, so I know I'm alone here. Everyone thinks I'm a hater, but I'm not.
Hang on. Can we agree that we should just call him Air Bear instead of Herbert? Because he's French.
That's the French pronunciation.
Air Bear.
All right.
And he's also a quarterback, so Air Bear kind of just fits.
I'm okay with it. It's official.
Yeah, that's
I don't love it, but I don't hate it. So,
all right. Actually, now I want to
Will,
crown
if
him
you're
with that
passionate
nickname.
about that, yeah, if you're passionate about it, you can go with it. I feel like Tommy can make fun of Air Bear, like it could go either way. But say, Tommy, you did not have as much hate for the Cowboys
I feel
that
like
you
Justin
do as the
Herbert,
Chargers.
I feel like
and the
Justin
Cowboys
Herbert
are more
banged
hyped
Tommy's mom.
than everybody.
Well,
Justin
the
Herbert
Chargers
bang Tommy's
deteriorating.
mom?
It's to be expected, and they always disappoint. But the Chargers do the kind of the same thing, but they don't get enough of the hate. So I'm like, this is like the most loved team across the NFL
okay.
for some reason. So I got to be like, all right, maybe I'll magnify it this time.
So my prediction after all this back and forth and deep analysis is I'm actually thinking like 10-7. I do think they go over. I don't think they're 13-14 wins like Jeff is suggesting. I think that there's too much uncertainty with the coaching change. There's too many losses on defense. They don't quite have the talent that the Chiefs do. I do think they'll make the playoffs. I do think they might split with Kansas City. Maybe they go 1-1. But I still see them losing too many games. Here's a fun fact, and I know it's a different coaching staff. So for Football Outsiders, they're the organization that created DVOA. The Chargers finished last in special teams DVOA for the last 2 seasons, the first time a team has ever done that. So they're the worst team in special teams for 2019 and the worst team in special teams for 2020. Whole new coaching staff. Maybe that changes.
Nowhere to go but up.
Maybe it's just the Chargers. But that's why I'm saying I do think they'll have an improvement. 10 wins would be an improvement over last year, right at the kind of the playoff bubble. But I don't see them legitimately challenging the Chiefs for the division. So let's go ahead and move on to the final team we're going to cover, the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos, who do not have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback after all of that speculation, at least not this year. Key players re-signed wide receiver Tim Patrick, free safety Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the league. Big signing there. And defensive lineman Shelby Harris. Key additions, they brought in quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to compete with Drew Lock. Cornerback Ronald Darby. Having trouble talking now. All that Chargers hype is in my head. Cornerback Kyle Fuller, formerly of the Bears, rejoins Vic Fangio in Denver. Cortland Sutton back from injury, and Von Miller back from injury. So they're getting some big players back from injury as well. Key departures, running back Philip Lindsay, cornerback A.J. Bouye, safety Kareem Jackson, and defensive tackle Jarrell Casey. They did draft, instead of a quarterback, and we know how Will feels about them passing on Justin Fields. They drafted cornerback Patrick Surtain II out of Alabama, running back Javonte Williams out of UNC, and one of my favorite players from the draft, interior offensive lineman Quinn Miners from Wisconsin Whitewater. Jeff, we'll let you start with this as our AFC West fan here. How are you feeling about Denver?
Oh man, Anthony, you got that soundtrack from Will earlier. I don't think there's anything that's going to happen here.
I did it for you.
They have pieces. They brought in Bridgewater to compete at quarterback. It's just they don't have the most important position in the game figured out. I don't know that it really matters. The rest of it, obviously there have been historically teams that have been able to succeed without really a serviceable quarterback, but they are extremely few and far between. And I don't think Denver has the rest of the pieces to make that even be a remote possibility. I think they're going to have a bit of a repeat of last season.
I don't understand why they are still Drew Lock has to take a step forward. He has to. He's got all that back. He's got Bridgewater just waiting in the wings. They have so much talent all over the ball, on both sides of the ball. I don't understand how they couldn't be amazing. So, we'll see.
Do you think he will, though? Do you think he will? He hasn't.
No,
Drew Lock will try his best to prove you wrong.
I was just making sure, because I also agree. I think any reasonable quarterback would be able to, but...
oh, man, if Herbert was there, he'd already be in the hall. He'd
already
have a bus.
Tommy. You'd already have the jacket and the speech.
Yeah, he'd already be fitted.
Yeah.
All right, well, Will's already done with the Broncos. Drew Lock sucks. Broncos are going to suck, apparently. Tommy, how about some...
No, I mean, I think the here's the thing. If Drew Lock, let's just play devil's advocate for a minute. If he can be decent, the Broncos could be dangerous. I mean, they got Surtain, like they're banking on him being good. They've got a bunch of different, they've got a lot of pieces there. I mean, if Lock can get it together, they could really surprise.
When you say get it together, do you mean like get it up to like Flacco or something like that on his Super Bowl run? Is that the bar that he needs to get over, or what do you think? Like, what's his?
I mean, I think if he could make it to like an Andy Dalton.
Oh, the Dalton.
So
back.
So
let's
they
be
have
honest,
an Andy Dalton. They have Teddy Bridgewater. I want to ask you, why do you think it's just going to be Drew Lock? Why do you don't think they'll go to Bridgewater at all?
I mean, they would have to if Bridgewater's that bad.
You mean if Lock's that bad?
Yeah. Sorry, if Lock's that bad, I mean they would have to. Well, how could you not?
I know, but you made it seem like it's Drew Lock or bust, and they have at least some sort of insurance in having brought on Bridgewater out of Carolina.
Sure, but I mean, like I don't see them going to Bridgewater like that fast. Is what I'm saying. I think they're going to give Drew Lock his time. I think if they switch to Teddy, they're probably smart to do. But I mean, Teddy's not. I mean,
he's not going to win you a Super Bowl.
He's Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah, exactly. Like he'll be okay. I think that's only a legit stopgap. I really think they need to figure out if Lock is it or not, and if not, they need to make a pretty legit move for.
Man, imagine if they could have drafted like a Justin Fields or something. That would have been.
Maybe they go
crazy.
for Rodgers next year. I mean, I everyone's gonna make that play, and that's the easy one. But anyway, I think that team has a lot of talent. Put it that way.
Tommy, how do you feel about the Broncos?
I know, kind of like what everyone said. I feel bad because I kind of cringe when I look at them because I'm like, you could be so good. But I love what Will said. He's like, if Drew Lock could be decent, so the way I interpret it is like, if Drew Lock just didn't suck, just imagine how good this team would be. And I'm nodding my head like, you know what?
That's
it's
100%.
So right.
That's exactly what I mean. That's what I mean.
Fangio takes him to the side and tries to coach him. Hey, Drew, just don't suck.
Yeah, just don't.
You
don't have to be good. You don't have to be great. Just don't. Imagine Fangio saying that to Drew Lock before every snap. He brings him in timeout. Come here. Just no. You don't even have to be great or good. Just don't suck. And Drew Lock wobbles out there. He's like, okay, guys, here, I just can't mess this up. But I mean, kind of like what they said, they're built so well top to bottom, but they did this to themselves. So I feel like in a weird way, that's why I don't feel bad for them. Like, why are you banking on, if the rumors are true, thinking that they had Rodgers locked up going to them and skipping out on Fields? And, Patrick Surtain's great. And I don't mean, anything bad over to him, but to take a cornerback over a quarterback that you could have had, I mean, they're just kept shooting themselves in the foot, I guess.
A generational one like Fields, bro. Like, I mean, who knows yet? I mean, to your point, like, we can't crown Fields if we're already crowning Herbert, right? Like, Fields is even less.
You could even have McCorkle. I mean, come on.
Who's McCorkle?
Mac Jones.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, Will's already passed the Patriots.
I thought there was a
Patriots
6th-round quarterback named McCorkle.
He doesn't recognize New England anymore.
So here's my thought on Denver. This had the opposite effect that I thought the Chargers would have. So as I dug more into this roster and the additions they made, quarterback aside, which I'll get to, I started to like Denver a little more. They've got an embarrassment of wealth as far as weapons. Cortland Sutton coming back. Jerry Jeudy, who I think is primed for a big season in year 2. Noah Fant has the talent to be a top 5 tight end. KJ Hamler, even great deep threat. Tim Patrick was a solid number 3 receiver. I like Javonte Williams. I wanted him for Miami. So I like the talent. Apparently he's had a great camp so far as well. They still have Melvin Gordon there. You've got Bradley Chubb. You got Von Miller coming back. You bolstered an already strong secondary. Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties in the league. You draft Surtain. I think they should have drafted a quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but Surtain is a really, really solid defensive back prospect. The linebackers are middle of the road, but you're going to have a great pass rush, a great secondary. You've got all of these weapons, a solid running back. The offensive line is league average, but it's the quarterback. And I kept talking myself up, but then I'm like, but they still have Drew Lock. So here's my thoughts. I think if I'm Fangio, maybe you give Lock a game, but I'm turning to Teddy right away. Drew Lock finished second in the NFL in turnovers last year. And that's the thing. If you've got all the rest of the pieces in your team, if you've got what could be, honestly, I'm looking at it, this could be a top 5 defense. You've got a young stud running back, a ton of pass catching weapons, a decent enough offensive line. All you need is an Andy Dalton. All you need is a game manager. Look at what Bridgewater did when he started those 5 games for the Saints. He went undefeated. When you've got the right talent around him, I'd rather have a safe quarterback who's making smart decisions and turning the ball over less and letting my defense make plays and my playmakers make plays than having a guy like Locke who, yes, technically has a higher ceiling, but I don't want that volatility. If the rest of my team is solid, I want a safer quarterback. So if I'm Fangio, I'm not saying he'll do this, I would turn to Bridgewater sooner rather than later. Tommy disagrees.
Only because you know what you got with Bridgewater. Like, you're not going to win Super Bowl, so what's the point of changing it over? I understand the morale will be like,
I know what I have
great.
with Drew Lock too. Drew Lock's had 2 seasons.
I mean, his ceiling is still much faster.
To answer Tommy's question, you could save your job. Like, if because I don't think Vic Fangio's job is
then
on lock.
Denver will be hurting themselves longer if they keep Fangio.
It's not unlocked because it's Drew Lock. It definitely is unlocked. Never mind.
I think
that was a good joke.
Based on what I've seen, and
really
I could be wrong. I mean, look at it's an outliner, so we shouldn't keep pointing to this. But Josh Allen made a gigantic leap year 2 to year 3.
Go.
But we have to remember that
Did
that is
you
the
just
exception.
compare?
No,
Drew
I'm
Lock?
saying people might make that. Oh yeah, Drew Lock can get better because Josh Allen. But Josh Allen was such an outlier that we shouldn't compare. I was saying we shouldn't compare him to Josh Allen.
I feel like Josh Allen at least got better every single year, and then Drew Lock's been Drew Lock every single year.
Right, you're the one who just said he has a higher ceiling, and then you're like arguing with yourself here.
When he's shining high, he's greater. But with Bridgewater, my goal, I think the way I like to look at teams, can I win a Super Bowl? And I look at Fangio, I look at the Denver's great offense. Then I see Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock, and even if both of them are playing at their ceiling, I don't see it. So I'm like, that sucks. Especially when you have to go through Herbie and Mahomes, I just no way.
Which is why I picked them. And we'll get to our division standings. Which is why I picked them to finish behind the Chargers and the Chiefs. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they do better than they did last year, if maybe incrementally, if they get Bridgewater in there. I think there's going to be. You have a quarterback who's going to turn the ball over. Even your great defense is going to have short fields, and they're going to have to defend in the red zone. And it's just you're putting your defense back against the wall. Whereas if you have a safe quarterback who makes smart decisions, sometimes your defense can get turnovers, your defense can make plays, and your playmakers can do enough to help you win some games. So that's my point. I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but I think their better chance is with Bridgewater at quarterback because the rest of the roster actually looks really good. I think some people are sleeping on Denver. If they had Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl contender. Like that's what
they
I
had a
think
Hall of Fame quarterback. They'd be good.
Well, no, but look at the Texans. They had Deshaun Watson. It didn't make them
true.
good.
That's fair.
Simply having a Hall of Fame quarterback doesn't make your team good. But I'm saying that I think this roster is so good that if they had an elevated quarterback, I'm 100% with Will. They should have taken Fields. Even as a rookie, he does give you the upside that could really propel this defense, or just to propel this whole team. So we'll see where this year ends. Let's go ahead and talk about our predictions. Jeff, our guest, our Chiefs fan, we'll start with you. Top to bottom, where do you see the AFC West in 2021?
I think Chiefs take it with 14, if we're lucky, 15 wins. I think Chargers with 12 or 13. And then a little rough after that. Probably the Raiders after that. Although, honestly, you did kind of convince me. Like, if there is a world in which they do switch to Bridgewater quicker earlier on in the season, I could see them taking third place. I don't know that they will, though. I don't know.
No,
we'll have to see. But I do feel like that's a race for third place from thereafter.
Elway might want Locke to stay in because Elway was or Locke was Elway's pick, right? He has a little bit of pride in that. I did one last thing on the Chargers. They lost some very, very close games all season. Their record was not representative of what they did. They lost 2 games in overtime. They were one possession game every game. And some of that was coaching. So a lot of that was bad coaching.
It was bad coaching. You're exactly right. I will add the asterisk. They did lose 45-0 to the Patriots for whatever reason. So
that's such an
a little
anomaly.
bit of exception to that. But
that's
otherwise,
called Bill Belichick versus rookie quarterbacks. That's just
he definitely took advantage of him.
Death taxes and Belichick against rookie quarterbacks. It's just it is.
Let's go. Yeah, Chiefs, Chargers, and flip a coin for the last 2.
Tommy, we'll go to you next. What's your official prediction for the AFC West.
I guess I got to be hot takey because for some reason I've been fired up this podcast. I don't know what it's about tonight, but I have.
Yeah, really, you have been.
Yeah,
fiery.
I don't know why. I love you guys. I'm sorry about that, but I have the Chiefs with around 14 wins. Then I guess I'll be hot takey. I have the Raiders, and I'm gonna put them all the way up at 10 wins. Then I'll have the Chargers coming in at 9 or 8, and unfortunately, I do think the Broncos are a great team, but just it's unfortunate they're in this division. But I do have them coming in last, and I think I see maybe a 7-win season from them.
Will, AFC West.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders are going to be last. I think the Broncos are going to Bridgewater it out to third place. There's just too much talent there. Like when you look at the two teams, like objectively, there's like they're missing one key piece, right? Denver is so. I agree with all of that, except
it is the biggest piece, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, again, they do have Bridgewater. They could go to him pretty soon. So, So who knows? But I think the Raiders are going to just suck, dude. That offensive line is already just it's just going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
Just like how Jeff heard that I was somewhat of a Chiefs fan, and he's like, okay, I like this Tommy. There's that one Raiders fan that is listening. They're like, okay, yeah, Tommy's pretty dope.
And Will, I'm guessing you're going Chiefs then Chargers for the top two, because you really just focused on the bottom two in your analysis.
Yeah, well, the top two are a given.
Okay, given. Fair enough. So I'm going to go the Chiefs first, I think. The Chargers might get a little frisky, but I think the Chiefs run away with this. I'm liking 14 wins. I'm not completely against 15-2, Will's prediction. I think the Chargers are right at the playoff bubble with 10, maybe 11 wins. I think the Broncos are going to give some teams trouble, honestly, especially their defense. And once again, it depends on if they go to Bridgewater sooner rather than later. 7 to 8 wins, and I could see the Raiders like 5 to 6 wins. I think that's the one that I'm picking the under on. I'm not a fan. I think Gruden and Mayock should be gone, and they should just burn it and start from scratch. Also found out recently, I haven't looked myself, but someone told me I was going to look at the Dolphins Raiders tickets. They're playing in Vegas. Apparently tickets are insanely expensive because I guess they didn't have fans last year. They got a nice shiny new stadium. So yet another reason to be mad at the Raiders. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Any last thoughts for the division before we wrap up the episode? Go Birds. Okay.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a very fun division. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit more in our Flavor of the Week episode, but I think it's going to be a fun one. This is going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Jeff with the little Flavor of the Week teaser. I love it. But yes, I agree. I think watching Herbert and Mahomes, I think we're going to be watching them duel for years to come, which as a football fan is exciting. And a fan of the division as you are, Jeff, I'm sure you're excited as well. It's always nice when you have that. Hopefully Tua ups his game and we can see Tua versus Josh Allen year in, year out. All right, quick reminder, we do have our 2 DFS Fantasy Leagues. We've already received some interest from some of you. We'll have a weekly one. Will, do you have any more hats? Or you got to increase the inventory if we're going to be giving away your hats.
Yeah, I have a lot of hats, bro, but I'll get more hats.
Okay, get more hats. This is like 6 weeks straight. We keep saying you're going to get more hats and you haven't. And we'll have a season-long DFS league as well. DFS, if you don't know, if people have asked, is daily fantasy. You set a new lineup each week. You don't have to put a lot into it. It's not like you have to draft and look for free agents and injuries. No, you draft a whole new lineup. You have a budget. Players have a salary that's assigned to them each week. So it's really low maintenance, easy to manage. So if you're interested, if you just have questions, pigskinpartypodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter at officialpppod. As always, you can watch this on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends and leave us a 5-star review if you're feeling so generous. Sign up for Legit Football. You can find that link in the episode description or just go to legitfootball.com. Thank you, Jeff. I know you're sticking around for the Flavor of the Week. Appreciate you coming on, Tommy and Will. Thank you as always. And thank you for listening, and make sure you also stick around for the Flavor of the Week.
Go Herb!
Oh, man. Go Birds!
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Pigskin Party Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. We'll catch you in the next Pigskin Party.